What's up, family? Welcome back. Today we are in Genesis chapter 4, and the title of that text is The Curse of Cain, starting in verse 1. And Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. Verse 1. Adam and Eve now begin to fulfill God's original command to them to be fruitful and multiply. Eve, whose name means life, now becomes the life giver. Eve knew that the child was more than a result of her and her husband's love. He came into being from the Lord. A wordplay in the Hebrew suggests that the name Cain, Cain, came from the verb have gotten. Keniti, in Eve's comment, I have gotten a man. And she again bare his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. Verse 2. The name Abel means breath. The term is used elsewhere in the Old Testament to refer to that which passes away quickly and is insubstantial in Psalm 62:10. And in process of time it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground, and an offering unto the Lord. Verse 3. Cain's sacrifice marks the first mention of an offering unto the Lord in the Bible. The Hebrew term used here suggests a free will gift given to an authority. In Abel he also brought of the firstling of his flock and of the fat thereof, and the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering. But unto Cain and to his offering he had no respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. And the Lord said unto Cain, Why art thou wroth? And why is thy countenance fallen? If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door. And unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. Verse 4 through 5. Ironically, the first recorded offering given to God was also the first one rejected by him. Since cereal offerings were authorized in the law of Moses, the fact that Cain's offering was of vegetation rather than an animal is not why God had not respect for it. Cain's wrath reaction suggests that the offering was rejected because of sin in his heart, not the nature of his offering. And Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and slew him. Verse 8. In a move that demonstrates premeditation, Cain waited until they were in the field and slew Abel where there were no human witnesses. Cain's killing of his brother brought about the first death of a human. And the Lord said unto Cain, Where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? Verse 9. God's use of questions with guilty sinners continues here. By claiming he did not know where his brother was, Cain added lying to his sin of murder. God once made Adam a keeper, in Hebrew shamar, of the garden. Cain now asked if he was to be his brother's keeper. The Bible's answer to Cain's question is yes, in Leviticus 19:18. And he said, What hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. Verse 10. Unlike his father Adam, Cain never confessed his guilt, even though God directly confronted him with his sin. Though Abel never spoke in the preceding narrative, his blood now cried out from the ground. And now art thou cursed from the earth, which has opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. Verse 11. God's judgment began with the curse, whose wording in the Hebrew parallels the curse placed on the snake. This is particularly fitting since both were liars and murderers in John 8:44. When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength, and a fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. Verse 12. Cain's punishment destroyed his livelihood as a farmer and turned him to a vagabond. And Cain said unto the Lord, My punishment is greater than I can bear. Verse 13. Cain's response has several possible English renderings. The Septuagint and Martin Luther translated it as, My sin is too great to be forgiven, while early rabbis took it as a question, Is my sin too great to forgive? In view of Cain's previous and later actions, the KJV translation, My punishment is greater than I can bear, seems best. He expresses his anguish, but no remorse. Behold, thou hast driven me out of this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid, and I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. And it shall come to pass that everyone that findeth me shall slay me. Verse 14. Just as his father Adam had been driven out, in Hebrew garash, of the garden, Cain noted that God was driving him out from the surface of the soil. Since he would be hid from God's protective face, his presence, he feared that other descendants of Adam and Eve would slay him to avenge Abel's murder. And the Lord said unto him, Therefore whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him. Verse 15. True to his compassionate and forgiving nature in Exodus 34:6-7, God made him two provisions for Cain to protect him despite his sin. And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. Verse 16. Cain's departure from the presence of the Lord was both physical and spiritual. In Jonah 1:3, Nod means wandering. The land of Nod is never mentioned again in the Bible. Perhaps the phrase simply referred to any location in which Cain resided. The notation that Cain departed to live east of Eden identifies him with other sinners who also moved east. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch. And he builded a city, and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. And unto Enoch was born Irad, and Irad begat Mehujael, and Mehujael begat Methuselah, and Methuselah begat Lamech. Verse 17. The parallel tracks of Adam's and Cain's lives, sin, judgment by God, banishment, and eastward movement, continue with the notation that after these things Cain knew his wife. In spite of his grave sin, Cain still fulfilled the divine command to be fruitful and multiply. The city of Enoch is not mentioned elsewhere in the Bible, and its location is unknown. Cain's genealogy in verse 17-24 had similarities with Seth's genealogy. Two of the names in both lines are identical, Enoch and Lamech, and others are similar, Cain, Kenan, Methuselah. In addition, the seventh member of both genealogies, Cain's Lamech, Seth's Enoch, are given special emphasis and both conclude with a person who has three named sons. Notable differences exist as well. Seth's genealogy is no longer and contains lifespan details, but it omits any mention of occupations or wives' names. And Lamech took unto him two wives. The name of the one was Ada, and the name of the other was Zillah. Verse 19. More details are provided in the genealogical section for Lamech, the seventh member of Adam's line through Cain, then for any other. His three named sons made crucial contributions to human culture. By taking two wives for himself, Lamech became the first polygamist, a violation of God's intention for marriage. And Ada bare Jabal. He was the father of such as dwell in tents, and of such as have cattle. Verse 20. Jabal brought about key advances in the profession of the nomadic herdsmen, those who cared for sheep, goats, and cattle. In Hebrew, mikneh. This represents an advance beyond what Abel had done, since he is only known to have tended to sheep and goats. And his brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all such as handled the harp and organ. Verse 21. Jubal advanced civilization in the area of the musical arts, playing a key role in developing two of the most important musical instruments of the ancient world, the harp and the organ. And Zillah, she also bare Tubal Cain, an instructor of every artificer in brass and iron, and the sister of Tubal Cain was Naamah. Verse 22. Tubal Cain's metallurgical advances in working brass or bronze and smelting iron would prove crucial for crafting tools and weapons. And Lamech said unto his wives Ada and Zillah, Hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech, hearken unto my speech, for I have slain a man to my wounding, and a young man to my hurt. If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 70 and sevenfold. Verse 23. Lamech's so-called Song of the Sword, the longest recorded speech by a human to this point in the Bible, 21 Hebrew words, represents the dark climax of the Canaanite genealogy. His level of retaliation against a man and a young man goes far beyond the biblical limits in Exodus 21:23-25, and his boast of killing for vengeance foreshadows the violence that led to the flood in Noah's day, in Genesis chapter 6, verse 11. Yet Adam knew his wife again, and she bare a son, and called his name Seth. For God says, She has appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew. Verse 25. The name Seth, in Hebrew Sheth, is a word play on the verb translated appointed. Once again, in verse 1, Eve recognized God as the ultimate source of her offspring. This family line that ultimately produced Jesus is traceable through Seth in Luke chapter 3, verse 38. And to Seth, to him also there was born a son, and he called his name Enos. Then began men to call upon the name of the Lord. Verse 26. The name Enos, like the name Adam, means humanity. In a very real sense, Enos's birth marks a new and brighter beginning for humanity as men now began to call upon the name of the Lord. This is Jehovah, God's personal name in Exodus chapter 3, verse 15.